Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the One Life Podcast. I'm your host, Devin Rodriguez, and our goal with this show is to enable and empower you to discover who you are so that you can take full advantage of the one life you have to live. Our guest on this episode is my great Uncle Ali, who is 89 years young. In this episode, we discuss and talk about things such as his life experiences, the lessons that he's learned throughout his life, how he's witnessed culture and society change as his life progressed, and what has enabled him to live a happy and fulfilled life. So I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to another episode of the One Life Podcast. I'm your host, Devin Rodriguez, and our goal with this show is to enable and empower you to discover who you are so that you can take full advantage of the one life you have to live. Today's guest is a very, very special guest because he is my technically great uncle, and he is great in multiple ways, not only his age. How old are you now, Uncle?
89 years.
89 years old, right? And I wanted to bring you on here, number one, because I think that it'll be really good for people to be able to look back and say, we have this memory of you. And not only that, but I think it'll be a good history lesson for everybody that is going to be watching this, listening to this, to see the progression through the last 89 years of how you've really seen things change. And I love you very much. So this is going to be very good. And I just want to start. So, Uncle, give them your full name.
Alfonso A. Scala.
Alfonso Scala. So Uncle Ali, we call him. So that's what we're going to stick with throughout this, Uncle Ali. So I just wanted to start a little bit, Uncle Ali, by talking about how you grew up, where you grew up, just a little bit about, if you could summarize for us your background and then what you did throughout your life as best as you can.
Well, like I say, I was born on May 14, 1931. I grew up in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and I had a nice, decent life. My parents were great people. And then things happened in my life that I remember really well. Like when the World War II started, I was a young kid. I was 10 years old. I was playing in the street with a couple of other friends. And then when I wound up going into the house by my father and mother, they said that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And we were at war. Then shortly thereafter, I was come down with rheumatic fever, which put me in bed for a couple of months. I couldn't go to school or anything like that. And then about 12, 13 years old, my father worked for the city. He was Department of Sanitation, which during the Depression was a good thing because he had an income coming in every week, So, and then I went to high school. I went to school, graduated, was going to go to East New York High School, take up boat building. When I went there, I met a bunch of guys that were bad, and I wound up thinking I was a wise guy too, and I quit school. My father was so against it that he didn't talk to me from May when I quit school to August.
Wow.
And he said to me, if you go back to school, I'll start to take care of you. In the meantime, the people I were hanging out with, some of them were getting busted. And I was fortunate that I never did get caught.
Right.
And went back to school, and it was the best thing that I ever did. My father was so happy with it. Then when I went to Brooklyn Automotive, and I would come out as a mechanic. And I worked partially with a friend of my father's as a mechanic.
How old were you at this point?
I was about 16 and a half, 17, like that.
Okay.
And we had a nice job. But then working as a mechanic, it was such a dirty job, under cars and everything. I said, I don't want to do this here, And then after that, let's see what the heck happened after that. Then I wound up staying in school, and I graduated. I graduated with an award that I didn't really realize I had, the Wingate Memorial Award, which they give out for scholarship and athletic ability. And I played baseball with the Brooklyn Automotive High School. I made the All-City team. And from there on, I loved baseball. But when I was living on Skull Street in Brooklyn, my bedroom was near the street side of the apartment. And across the street was the schoolyard. And every time somebody somebody would hit the softball across the street, I'd jump out of bed and run across them and start to play softball. That was my thing. Then we got together and we wound up. I used to hang out with the neighborhood guys and girls, and my wife Dorothy. At that time, I knew her as a kid. I didn't realize that she was going to be my wife.
So you grew up with her?
Yeah.
Like you grew up being around her? Really?
Yeah, really.
Wow. So what age were you? Do you think, if you can remember, that you guys initially met? Were you teenagers?
About 13 years old.
Okay.
And
Wow.
we were in the schoolyard one afternoon, and she takes my chin like this and made a cleft. She says, "When you get married, you're going to have nothing but girls." We wind up getting married, and we wind up with 3 girls. And then she wanted another baby. We wound up having my son Lewis, which is a great thing for me to have a son that is really helpful to me.
So now, what's your kids' names? All of them?
Roseanne. I wanted to name Roseanne Donna because I was in love with Donna Reed.
That's a good reason to name her Donna, right?
Right. But my mother got kind of pissed at me, and she says, "You got to name the baby after me."
Right,
So
right.
I named the Roseanne. Then the second one was named Donna because I wanted them all D's, like after my wife. Then,
right.
And then Debbie came, and then Lewis came. Let's see. After that, there, I was on when Deborah was born, I was going for the police examination to get appointed to the police. I passed the test there, and then I wound up becoming a policeman. I wound up working in a traffic precinct at start. Then I wound up working up in Central Harlem for 11 years, through some of the bad times and some of the good times. It was a really good neighborhood. People, you got to know everybody. If you did right by them, they would back you up 110%. I organized a softball team in the precinct.
Right.
And then we start to play neighborhood guys for big money.
Really?
Yeah. They had neighborhood teams would play us. We'd play everybody. And we got along fine with the community. There was no problems at all. But one thing I forget to say is that in the meantime, when I had the 4 children, I tried to get an apartment in Queens, but nobody wanted me with 4 kids.
Really? Wow.
We wound up moving up to the Bronx into the Baychester houses, which turned out to be a wonderful experience. We lived there 11 years, and we had the best of times. We used to go, when I was off on a Sunday, we'd go to Davies Lake up in Rockland County. We had a hell of a time. There was one incident. We were up there on one Sunday, and it started to rain. So now I try to play the part. I get a bar of soap, the rain coming down pretty hard, and I start to say, "I'm singing in the rain." And a lightning strikes a tree about not maybe 25, 50 feet away from me. I jumped up onto the table. That was the end of my singing.
That fixed you real quick.
That was the end of my singing in the rain. And then we had a really wonderful time. Then we decided to move out to Queens. We wanted to get closer to the family. One incident happened. It was Christmas. I was working an 8 to 4. My father picked up the kids, and I had to go to where, what do you call it? Where your grandmother lived.
Right.
And while we're there, we're going to go home now. And I get in the car. I leave Donna there. And we're going to driving home. Could he answer the phone?
Yeah, sure. Good.
So then, what do you call it? Get in the car, we're going home to the Bronx, and it winds up that I forgot my gun. I said, God, I said, I forgot my gun by Mom. I says, we got to go back. So on the way back, I make a turn, and some car comes straight at us. And then they backed up, and we went down the street. They come after me.
Wow.
And get to the traffic light, and the guy in the back of the car pulls out a knife and says to me, I'll cut your effing heart out. I said, let me take my family home and I'll see you. Me not realizing that I was a cop. If I had my gun, it wouldn't have happened because we would have been going straight to the Bronx. I went home to get my gun by my mother and father's house, and I went in, come out, and they followed me right to the block. They got out of the car, and I come running out, and my father and my Uncle Matty held me back. I said, let me go. I want to get them. So winds up, they took off, and I didn't do anything, which I would have, was if I was able to get to them, I possibly would have shot one or two of them because, I mean, they had the knife and the threat was there.
Right.
I mean, I have 3 kids in a car, and they got the nerve to try to tell me they're going to cut my heart out.
Did you ever figure out who these people were or no?
I found out because I took the license plate number of the car.
Oh, wow.
When they first cut me off, and then found out these same guys came from Queens, Rego Park, I think.
Right, yeah.
And they did this to other people too.
So you weren't the only one?
I wasn't the only one because I spoke to a detective in my squad, in the 2-8 squad, and he says, forget about it, Al. He says, I'm black. He says, I was sitting in front of the doctor's office. I took my mother to the doctor's office, and then people coming out, get out of here. You don't belong in the neighborhood.
Wow.
Imagine that. And if you've seen this guy.
Now, what year was this around? What's the time frame of this?
That was about 62, 63, like that.
So now, prior to this, where did you continue to play baseball after high school? Or what happened with that?
I got a contract with the Philadelphia A's, and I hurt my arm before I went away. And
what position did you play?
I was a catcher.
Oh, and you hurt your arm.
Yeah, and I was doing pretty good down there in spring training hitting, but I couldn't throw, and I got cut.
So then once you got cut, what was next from there?
Then after that, I got this was like 1950, 51. Yeah, 1950. And then 51, the Korean War started, and we went down to join the service, some of the guys from the neighborhood, and I get rejected because they said I had a slight murmur of the heart, which I figured, well, what then I could do about it?
Right.
And then I get a notice that I got to go down for the draft, and I was working in a machine shop, and the boss, we were doing a little government work. He says, I could get you rejected, he says, because we're doing government work. I said, I'm going to get rejected anyhow. So I wind up going down, and I get accepted.
Wow. So what made you, from what we all hear in school as the younger generation, we all hear that World War II, a lot of patriotism around that. You know, people were really proud of the military. It was like a great time to be an American. Is that how it was?
Yeah,
around?
Definitely proud to be an American. And then there was all sorts of drives. To go to the baseball game, if you brought maybe 10 pounds of metal or something, to get into the Ebbets Field for nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, you get to see the baseball game for nothing. And that was a lot of things good, a lot of good things. And we wound up having, well, at that time during the war, there was like around LaGuardia Airport, they had a lot of anti-aircraft batteries. And there used to be planes flying, like making out they were in combat over the city, you know. It was really, sometimes there was well, it didn't affect me because, I mean, I was only a kid at the time, but everybody was rations and everything like that, you know.
This was during World War II, you're saying?
Yeah.
So then after World War II, what made you want to join the military after you got cut from the baseball team?
I would always wanted to be a soldier when I was a kid. playing soldiers in the street and whatnot. So I wound up going, and then I was seeing a movie about the airborne, and I said, "Gee, I'd like to be a paratrooper."
It looked fun, right?
Right. In fact, I think the name of the picture was Objective Burma with Errol Flynn.
Okay.
It was about the paratroopers.
What's the name of it again?
Objective Burma.
Objective Burma. Okay.
It was about the Americans jumping in Burma, and it was really a good picture. It showed a lot of things what they had to go through. It was a hard time over there, and I thought I was going to, when I went in, and I started to play baseball for the division baseball team, and one of the guys had a softball team off the. Oh, another good thing. There was a black soldier that I knew, Alvin Parker. He was he was married. He was a corporal. He lived off the base, and he said to me, "Al," he says, "I play for a team every Sunday." He says, "Would you like to play with us?" He says, "It's an all-black team." I said, "Yeah, Al." So he says, "You come to on a Saturday night." He says, "I'll come pick you up. You stay at my house, and then Sunday morning we go meet the guys." And we traveled over North Carolina, and we're playing softball all over the place. I mean baseball, and people used to come up to me and say, "Where are you from?" I said, "From Brooklyn." "Oh, I got cousins up there." They're probably not realizing how big Brooklyn was.
Now, was this a time where it was normal for like a white guy or a black guy to be playing with the total opposite race?
Nobody complained about anything at that time. There was still a segregation in the majors, and I'm playing down there.
But you got along great with them.
Oh, I got along.
That's beautiful, right?
Really, this guy Alvin, really, like I said, kids used to come up to me and say, "Are you Alvin's brother?" He was a light-skinned black. Well,
right. That's hysterical.
I used to tell him, "Yeah, I'm his brother."
That is hysterical.
They really, I got on. Then after the games, we used to go to the grocery stores, and there in the back room, they had the homebrew. We used to drink up a storm over there.
That must have been a good time.
Oh, I tell you, wonderful times, really. In fact, I got along well with all the black soldiers because then they just started to integrate the units.
Right.
At that time. And look, a couple of them from Philadelphia and everything. They're really...
Obviously you got along great and treated them the same, but were there some guys that they wouldn't want to intermingle with the blacks wouldn't want to intermingle? Why?
One guy that I remember, he tried to go after one of the black guys, and he got his just due. They banged the guy that he was after, banged them around. Really, hit him with the entrenching tool.
Really?
Yeah. We slept upstairs, and the door opens downstairs, and up the stairs is coming. So look, "Hey, don't you come up here, Cody." He said, "I'm going to get him. I'm going to get Paige." I still remember the names. He said, "I'm going to get him." So he says, "You better leave before he does anything." So he waited for him to come up the stairs, and he was standing behind the wall. And he, bam, hit him.
Did he knock him out?
Knocked him down the stairs.
Wow.
He deserved it. No, everybody, nothing happened to him because we all talked. The guy had a couple of double-edged razor between his fingers that he was going to start to slash. Yeah. And that was
for everybody that's unaware, an entrenching tool is about 5 pounds of steel. That's what it is now. I'm assuming it was pretty similar then too.
Folded, yeah.
Right. It folded the whole night. So that must have hurt.
Hurt him good.
But for the most part, everyone got along good in the unit that you were in?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we went up to Camp Drum. We took winter maneuvers. We drove from Fort Bragg to upstate.
It must have been a long ride.
Yeah, all the way up in.
It's a long ride.
The hell's a camp up there?
Fort Drum.
Yeah, Fort Drum.
Right.
In the back of a 2.5-ton truck.
How long did that take? Do you remember? It must have been at least
just about a week because we made stops at Indian Town Gap, We stopped in Gettysburg and a few other places on the way up. And that was my first experience at Gettysburg. It was a beautiful place. We wind up, I went back there 3 or 4 times already because the memorial.
You loved it?
Oh, a fantastic place. If I was still able, I would love to go there again.
I feel like a lot of people now, a lot of young kids don't really, I mean, even myself included at times, we don't really appreciate historical sites, monuments like that. You know?
I tell you, I mean, they have a speech about how the battle occurred and everything like that. I mean, the grave sites all over, there's still cannons in the field and plaques saying this guy from the New York's 5th Regiment or whatever was killed here, whatever. Well, I tell you, great scene in Gettysburg.
So now you ended up going to the Airborne, right? 82nd Airborne. How'd you end up becoming a paratrooper? Did you volunteer for that? Told or what?
I volunteered for it because, like I said, I seen a picture and it made me want to be a paratrooper. I mean, good publicity.
Yeah, right.
And then I got along great with the guys.
How was it? What was your experience like going through jump school and then finally jumping out of the aircraft? A lot of excitement?
Oh, yeah. Every time when you're in jump school, every place you had to go to
run.
To the mess hall, you had to run.
Yep.
The sergeant behind the wall, and you figure you got a couple of steps to go into the mess hall.
I think that's really funny because the tradition continues now. Because as I just went through it last year, if they see you and you're not running, they give you
push-ups.
Basically, no, they give you like a strike, and like 3 strikes, then you're out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's I don't know if it's exactly 3 strikes. I can't remember.
Right.
But basically, they penalize you, and they're always watching. Sergeant Airborne is always watching.
Right.
And if he gets you, it's not good.
It used to be that you give them 25 push-ups. Before you go in, you had to do 5 pull-ups.
Yeah, we got to do the same thing now.
Yeah.
We got to do. I think they added on push-ups for us, but I think it was at least 10 pull-ups and 10 push-ups. So that's really cool that it's such a tradition. We don't know that when we're going through it. We just think that they're just making us do this.
Like when you're training off the 250-foot towers, and you come down and you're landing, and you're walking off to go off the drop zone. You think you're walking, somebody hollers at one of us, give me 25. So you think it's you. You get down, you get up, there's a guy behind you that wasn't running or doing the right thing. And we had it was really a good experience. I like the 34-foot tower. You jump out and you had a hell of a ride.
Oh, yeah. When you first jump out and then it just takes you.
Right down. And you can't talk going up the steps. If you're talking, you come back, you got to give them push-ups. Everything was push-ups at that time. There was a couple of sergeants that were rebels, that were from the South. They didn't like anybody from the North.
Really? Wow.
So they thought because I was from Brooklyn, I was a wise guy, a tough guy. When I used to go home, go on a leave, they said, who are you going to see up there? Bring back some weed for us.
That's hysterical.
And I said, yeah, I'll bring back some. So when I got back, where's the stuff, Al? My man got busted. that they always thought.
Wow, that's great.
That was crazy, really. Some of the guys were really bad. There was one guy, he used heroin.
Well, really? Is this a fellow soldier?
Yeah, corporal.
Wow.
One night, right after guard mount, went back to the barracks. And I go in the barracks, go up to the cadre's room, and they got the fatigue jackets wrapped around the windows and the door. And we're sitting down on a bunk, and this one guy said, you missed it. And he threw open a sheet, and there was the works, every needle and all, the cotton, the spoon and everything. He was a mainliner.
Wow.
Nobody ever, did anything. None of the sergeants or anything. Winds up, they're passing the weed around. And the guy gives it to me. I said, man, I don't smoke real cigarettes. You want me to smoke this shit?
So was there drug testing going on?
No.
Really? Wow. Because now they give you random drug tests. And they take it very seriously now.
Of course. It should be.
Right. Wow, that's so funny.
A lot of guys were coming back from Korea, and it was probably like Vietnam with all the drugs available, all the heroin or whatever they needed in that area.
So did you ever end up going to Korea or no? You always
no. We wound up staying in Fort Bragg for the whole 2 years that I was down there.
So then, what were you gonna say? Go ahead.
I had my wife live with me because one of the guys, corporal, went special duty to Fort Sill, the Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I took over his trailer, and I had my wife with me.
How did she like? What was her experience like being a military wife? Did she like it? Did she not like it?
She never mentioned anything bad. She liked whatever I wanted. She was there for me. That's the way she was.
My grandpa Jack, he told me his only regret was not staying in the military.
At times, I think of it too.
Right.
Really, I was married when I was getting out. They just were starting up the special forces.
Right, I know. It was in the 50s. In the 50s, they began, right?
They had their basic camp inside Fort Bragg.
Still is.
It is?
Yeah. Fort Bragg is big special forces community.
And at the separation center, the captain from special services come in, and he start to give you a rundown if you want to stay in, and everybody gets the rank of sergeant and all this. Yeah.
Right.
And I was, wanted to do it, but, being married, and I wanted to be a cop too,
Right.
Excuse me there. And so I wound up coming out and taking the police.
But it was a good time, huh? Being in the military.
I loved it. I loved it, really. I had no problems with anybody. Although the only bad thing I didn't like was that I was always on KP because I was only a PFC.
What's that, KP?
Kitchen police.
Those weren't fun times?
No. You had to get there early in the morning, and you're there till like 6, 7 o'clock at night, scrubbing the floors.
Working like a horse.
Oh, unbelievable.
But it seems like you still have that stuck in your head. I think that's great.
God almighty.
So what would you say some of the best reasons why, the most important reasons why you liked it so much? What did you really enjoy about the military?
Being somebody. Really, you're an American, love the country, and that's it, Couldn't go wrong being a world patriot. Even today when I buy stamps, I buy the patriotic stamps.
Right.
I'm an American all the way, and that's all I want to know about. I can't take what's going on today, but that's people's thoughts, and I got mine and they got theirs. What can we do?
Right, of course. You're right, absolutely. And did you build a lot of friendships throughout your years in the military? Did you maintain them once you got out? Because I know, like, going back to my grandpa, he always used to say that he would talk to guys years later that he was in the service with.
I really never come across anybody that, after I got out. Although, like I say, I got along so good with some of the black soldiers that I don't want to, like I'm a liberal or anything, but you treat me good, I treat you good. Yeah. And that's the way my life has been.
I think that's great.
All my life I've been that way. And like when I was a cop in Harlem.
What was Harlem like at the time? What was the demographics? Was it how it is? Hispanic? Yeah. What was it like?
It was all black. I mean, I worked in Central Harlem. And like I was saying, we played teams from the precinct, and I made friends with the people. And occasionally I'd get a job. We respond to a location, and guys from the ball team that we played, hey, how you doing? What do you got? Got a problem upstairs. You want us to come up with you? We'll straighten it out with you.
That's funny.
This is people from the neighborhood.
All right, they want to run up there and go in with you.
And help me because we were friends, Black and white didn't mean shit then. You was a human being, Yeah. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely. Now, were there any incidences when you were a cop that you had any close calls and Any really good cop stories or anything of the sort that stuck with you?
Quite a few. Like when there was one incident, I believe it was with Eartha Kid. Something was going down, and some guy comes up to me and says to me, "There's a man with a rifle on 125th Street in the store," and now I got to face this guy with a rifle supposedly. So I walk up, and in fact, the picture was taken of me walking to the location. It wound up that the guy had a toy rifle. It wasn't anything, But got to be prepared. I have my gun at my side.
Of course.
This way, I don't have to pull it out of the holster.
Right.
I had it ready to come on to. A lot of different incidents. I was a good cop. I really made friends with people. In fact, one of the captains said me and my partner, Mike Sinise, we were like a real radio car team. In fact, Mike Sinise was one of my best friends there, and he was a Marine during the Second World War.
Wow. So was he a little older than you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Not that much, but he a little older. And, he used to come to my house when we worked 12 to 8. So we both lived in the Bronx, and we have breakfast at the house, and Aunt Dot would cook for us and everything. And when we used to work the job, we used to go on and respond to jobs. He says, listen, he says, if there's any gun runs, he says, I got to go in first. I said, why, Mike? I says, if I go there first, why shouldn't I go in? He says, you got a family. He says, you got kids. I don't know. It's just me and my wife. He says, I wanted to go in first.
Right.
That's the type of guy he was. I mean, you don't think of it that way. And then it was really, then my other partner, John Morrow, one of my best friends, really. We hung out together, used to go visit him. When he retired, he went to Hawaii.
Not bad, huh?
Me and Daddy, we stayed at his house for a month in Hawaii. Then he'd come back, and we used to go down to Florida with him all the time.
How many partners did you have in your course?
Mike, I had about 5 different partners.
Okay.
Good sergeants and everything, really good bunch of guys.
So your police experience was great.
Yes.
So then, what was another question that I think is interesting? What was it like being a cop in the era of a lot of organized crime? I know Mafia was very big.
Yeah.
Organized crime was huge. What was that like? And then also, what was the effect on cops? Because I know there was a lot of dirty cops too.
There was a lot of things going on. There was a big investigation going on in Harlem with Phillips, because he was a dirty cop. In fact, he wound up killing, I think, the madam or somebody. And I know him. We come on a job together. We knew each other. And he knew Uncle Rudy. And one night, we were all at this CIC course we're taking. And every week we used to go back because he was trying to find out all the dirt on dirty cops. So he comes over to me and we're talking. And he says to me, he says, I was riding with your brother. He says, and I'm hitting all the places and getting money here and there. He said, I want to give him money in the morning. He says, your brother says, I don't want no part of anything like that. I said to him, he's a good kid. He don't want to be bothered with anything. And that was the end of that story,
Right.
Thank God Uncle Rudy never took anything because he would have probably been arrested.
Right, wow.
That's how close it was. I mean, this Phillips was coming back. How's everything in your division? You know anything, this and that there? I don't know nothing. People are coming in, then they change it from divisions from units to the division offices. And then I wound up coming into Brooklyn, wound up working in a cigarette tax unit. And it was funny because Aunt Dot used to say, we used to bust the cigarette smugglers bringing in untaxed cigarettes. and she used to be a big smoker.
Yep.
And she's, don't bust my man that sells me my cigarettes.
You bust everybody else except her man.
Well, man.
That's hysterical.
We had the unit that I was in. We had authority all the way from down in North Carolina up into upstate New York. We were, and
wow,
they used to.
It's a big area.
Instead of coming up through the Delaware Memorial Bridge, a lot of them used to try to come around and come in through the George Washington Bridge, go through Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the warm weather, you could smell the cigarettes.
Right.
You know.
So then, what year did you get out of the police force?
In 1977. Then I.
How old were you then? Let's see. You were
about
40, 45 almost, 46?
Yeah, about that. I went into 50.
Yeah, 46.
Yeah.
What did you do once you left the police force?
I drove a school bus for 17 years. And then I had, to me, at times it was worse than being a cop. The kids on the bus, some of them were bad. I worked in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and one of the kids on the bus wanted to be my monitor. He'd take care of everything, any problem. He'd be
he would look after you?
Yes. He'd do a job for me. And they were good kids. Let's see.
What was the story we were just talking about when you made the left turn?
Oh,
and these guys were following.
Yeah, they followed me down I'm at Suffern Boulevard, like 165th Street. I make the left turn. These two guys that spotted me
for no reason.
No reason at all. They looked at me, and I could see. Honest to God, they said, "Oh, we got one here," like the cartoons. We got a sucker.
Right, let's get him.
Yeah, that's the way I could see it on their faces. So then they went down a block. I went and I parked the car. I was writing, and they come back up the block, one back by the rear window, the other by the driver's side. And I got my gun in my hand, which they never realized. And a guy put his head down to tell me something, and I put my gun in his nose. And he said, "Be cool."
He didn't know that was coming.
Never in a million years.
That's hysterical.
He expected that. And thank God I had.
So what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Then I went down a block and I made the turn. Winds up that I see the police, and I told them that what just happened, and they said we could go get them if you want. I said no. I said I don't want to be bothered. So I said, but if you do get a call of shots fired, I said they might be coming after me. So I said it would be me shooting somebody. and then the other incident was in Flushing Meadow Park.
Okay. When
we had a field trip into Flushing Meadow Park, dropped the kids off, and then they were walking around by the Unisphere and look up, and here comes about 15 to 20 blacks and Hispanics kids, and they're coming towards us. I said to the escort, "Let's get out of here. This is trouble." We start to walk away, and the kids start to come after us, and the leader of the gang, "Give me De Niro, money, De Niro." I said, "Leave him the fuck alone." And we start walking away faster. And the guy behind him pulls out a gun and starts pointing it at me. And I'm using the leader as my shield. Every which way he goes, I go, right, to protect myself. So they keep coming after us to get us, to more or less try to get us. I'm not a tough guy, but I thought I could do what I had to do. Mm-hmm. I said to the escort, "Listen, if they try to grab us," I said, "I'll punch them and you run."
Right.
So they never come that close. We got out of
Thank
the park.
God, yeah.
And wound up that the police come. And they took me around the park to see if they were there. They couldn't find them. It winds up that the sergeant says, "Did they hurt you?" I says, "Yes." And he was kind of shocked in my answer. I said, "They hurt my feelings."
I think that's great.
I said, "If I had my gun with me, Sarge," I said, "I would have shot 5 of them." He said, "You would have shot them?" I said, "If I take my gun on," I said, "I ain't fucking around." That's right. I'm meaning business. And that was the end of that incident. Thank God. that I didn't have to
Could have
shoot
turned
at
out bad though.
I would have shot them, honest to God. It wouldn't have bothered me because the way they were after me, and I know one had a gun,
Right.
Right.
So
it would have been even Stevens.
Would have been done it. You'd have done it out of your protection.
Right.
Wow. And then what about the story in Coney Island?
And then when the night would come, we were in Coney Island, me and my friend, and we were winding up wanting to go home and walking through the alley, and 4 big black guys come out and they grab us.
Came out of nowhere?
And it was dark. It was a pitch black alleyway, which we should have never went in.
Right.
And they grabbed us and they took my money, 10 cents. That's all I had.
That's crazy.
To get out of subway.
What could 10 cents buy you back in, what year was this around?
Oh, we were kids. It put you on a subway train anyhow.
Right. Which is crazy.
Right.
Now to get on, you know how much it costs now? It's almost $3. Almost $3.
Yeah.
$2.75 in New York.
That's bad. And then a lot of things. You could go to the movies when I was a kid for a quarter. You get in the movies for 15 cents, and you had enough money to buy a hot dog and something after the movies.
You're lucky if you could get that for $10 now. Seriously,
what?
10. You can't even buy a hot dog and a soda for $10 in a movie theater anymore.
What do you call it? There was a movies in the neighborhood on a Saturday night was jammed.
Really? That was the place to go to movies?
Yeah, on a Saturday night. They showed 3 movies and 5 cartoons.
Wow. Who was your favorite actor?
I really don't recall any that. I would more or less lean towards Errol Flynn at the time.
Okay.
He was about the. It's like I say, he was the one in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. I don't. Other than that, the movies was nice at that time. In fact, I was going to school, and Aunt Dot was working, and I used to meet her in the movies. I used to sit in the back row.
What did Aunt Dottie do for a living?
She wound up sewing machine operator.
Oh, really?
She made a lot of money. In fact, she was working in this factory that they were making the sleeping bags with the down feathers.
Right. Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. And that was I used to go pick her up after work. After school, she would finish working 4 or 5 o'clock, and I go meet her, and we walk home together.
How long were you married for, you two?
From 1952, we got married. She passed away in 2011.
Wow, 60.
Plus the fact that we were together 4 or 5 years before we were kids.
So we're talking almost 70 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And nothing like it, believe me. We were all together all the time.
Yep. Family was a big part. You're always surrounded by family, right?
Yeah. Plus the fact that we fostered over 20 kids.
What do you mean? Who
fostered children.
Who did?
We did. Me and my.
Really?
Yeah. 20 children.
What made you do that?
My wife loved the children. She wanted to do it, and we did it.
Wow.
The first one was hard because it was a baby. Then we had to give it up after a couple of months. And I said, well, forget about it.
Right.
But we continued, and we did like 20 kids.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, the kids were good.
Wow, that's cool.
Really.
And that was on top of your own kids.
Right. We had a nice house, and we had the room for them, and we got them. It was a lot of investigations,
No, of course.
And we did good. The kids, one kid, Eric, he came back, and when he found out that, Aunt Dot passed away, he was crying.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. A lot of kids, we fostered a lot of. We'd always take a family. Like if they had.
You wouldn't just take one. You'd take them all.
The 3 of them, 3
always
kids.
stick together.
Yeah. This way.
That's a beautiful thing.
We would want to break up the family.
Of course.
We did that to like 3. We had 3. I think we did it 3 times with 3 kids.
I didn't even know that. Wow, that's interesting.
And occasionally, when I was driving a school bus, used to see some of the kids that we fostered.
Really?
Yeah, 1 or 2. I would see them anyhow. And they were nice. In fact, one kid wound up, she was looking to buy a house in Staten Island, and she knew Donna. She wound up meeting Donna, and she said, Scala? Yeah, the Scalas used to foster me. And then,
wow. What a small world, huh?
Yeah. I tell you, the last, Aunt Dot wanted to adopt the last one. He was such a beautiful little boy. I said, Dad, I says, I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to wind up, he's a baby. He's maybe 3 years old. But he was such a beautiful, his parents, one was Italian, and the father, one of them was a junkie, and they had to drain, the baby used to go for shots, like taking the blood out or whatever they had to do to try to clean.
Because he was on drugs. Because the parents were on drugs, so then he came out.
Yeah.
Was it a guy? It was a boy. It's a boy. So he came out on drugs, addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
Wow, that's sad.
I mean, and all the people wanted it. When are we getting our kids back? We need our checks. So
that's all they're worried about.
We spent more money on them than we were getting for them. She used to dress them up, Dottie.
Oh, I can imagine, right?
Yeah.
She really had a passion for doing it.
I believe because I think possibly she was forced it out for a while. Into Pennsylvania she was. So that
was close to her heart, right?
Yes. Oh, her and children. Forget about it.
Yep.
Really. And our daughter Roseanne, who passed away at 51, was one of the toughest people you ever want to meet.
I know her and Antoni, my Antoni, right? Two pigs in a blanket.
Oh God, 2 wild Indians.
She was a tough girl, Roseanne. Hard as nails, huh?
Oh.
How so? She had a bad temper. What was it like?
She went to the bar to get her husband to come home. Glenn was a cop up in Rockland County. She says, Glenn, come on, you gotta go home. He said, I ain't going home. She says, you're gonna come home with me now. He said, what are you gonna do? Hit me on the head with a bottle? She says, yeah. She banged him on the head.
She wasn't messing around.
She banged him.
Wow, that's the type of personality she had.
If Glenn got into a fight in the bar, she had his back. She'd take her shoes off and start wailing with shoes or punching everybody out.
She was no joke.
No joke.
Wow.
She was my biggest. She wanted to fight with me. She was something else. She was beautiful.
That is hysterical.
We wound up, had a house in Rosedale. Okay. And we're moving out the next day. But I wind up, we knew the people from the Bronx when we lived in the Bronx. They were going to Puerto Rico. And they said, my daughter wants Roseanne to come with us. I knew her father, and I knew he was a straight guy. I says, yeah, you could go with them, Roseanne. So I wind up, like I said, just before we were moving the next day, I get a letter. There's a letter laying around. Oh, didn't we have a good time, Roseanne, smoking a pot? And blah, blah, blah. I'm a cop. My daughter's smoking pot. I chased her all over the house, upstairs into the bedroom, one side of the bed, this side, and everything. Right. And I grab her finally, and I said, you smoking pot? Boom, I bang her head into the wall and made a hole in the fucking wall.
Oh, my goodness. That must have drove you crazy.
Yeah, I had to fix it for moving out.
Oh, my goodness. And what about your other kids? What were their personalities like?
Quiet.
All of them?
Yes.
They made Roseanne look like
Roseanne was the boss.
Roseanne was the boss.
She had the potato chips. She'd deal them out while they were watching TV. Whatever she had to be in. That picture on the wall there.
Right.
With her arms like that. She's looking at all these other pictures. I'm still here. I'm still the boss. That's why I put it on that wall.
That is hysterical.
So in fact, your Uncle Ernie gave me that picture.
She was the boss. Man, I think that's so funny.
She was, I'll tell you, she had cancer, and we're up in Rockland County. And we pull into a little shopping mall, and there's a car in front of us. Stop, and there's a car behind us. So the car behind us is blowing a horn. And in the front car, there was 4 black guys and girls. they get started blowing that horn out. What are you bothering? Roseanne's ready to get out of the car. I said, Roseanne. I said, Roseanne, I says, you're not your fighting weight. Get back in the car.
She was ready to go.
She was.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
And another thing that happened to her up there in Rockland County, she was in the mall. She got into the car, and this black guy comes over to her. I want your car, lady. She says, what? I want your car and give me the keys. You do? She had the nightstick, and she hits this guy with the nightstick.
Wow.
That's
impressive.
That's how ballsy she was. She hit him with the nightstick and
didn't think twice about it, probably.
No, not one bit. You couldn't do anything, that she would accept it if she thought she was right. She was.
Now, did her and Maya and Tony hang out at all?
Well, they knew each other, and when they were together, they hung out. And your Aunt Tony was a hell of a ball player.
Right. She played really good at softball, I know, right?
Yeah, she was a good shortstop.
You have any good stories with my grandpa Jack?
Yeah, the one that sticks out the most is we both were going to Brooklyn Automotive.
This is the same time?
Yeah. I mean, he's a year younger than me. And we wind up, I used to take the bus, and your grandfather used to be on the corner waiting, and the bus come. I get on the bus, and he stay off the bus, and he run all the way from Williamsburg all the way to Greenpoint to Bedford Avenue to the Automotive. And every day I used to say, somebody, look at this jerk, he's outside the bus. Not never knowing he's going to be my brother-in-law.
Wow.
And marry my sister. He'd run every day with the bus, your grandfather.
That's crazy.
He was the wildest man you ever wanted to see. Your grandmother was in the hospital. He parked his car in a parking lot. He comes down after visiting her in the hospital. His car's not in the parking lot. He jumps on the hood of the cars. Better get my fucking car here. I'm going to stop kicking.
That's just the type of guy he was.
Oh, he was wild.
He used to tell me stories, just climbing windows, going to beat guys up.
When he was a sanitation man, he did a lot of heroic things too. Wild man, Uncle Jackie. Wow. We had a good time together.
You guys were very close?
Yes. We were really close. And his father was a hell of a man too. Your great-grandfather.
Right. I know. Unfortunately, he died young, right?
Yeah, really young. But we got along, Uncle Jackie and I, really. That's about it, with him.
Yeah. So then I want to hear some, so how have you noticed that since your time, over the past 89 years, how do you think this, society has changed? Like the thought, I'll give you an example. Now, back then, women, it was normal for them to stay home, cook, clean.
Right.
Now it's shifted, and women are really in the workforce a lot, just as much as men.
Right.
So, what else do you see now that is different from when you grew up?
Well, a lot of respect for a woman is gone in today's society.
How so? What do you mean?
I mean, they don't respect the woman. Things have changed drastically. I mean, years ago, you never cursed in front of a woman. And woman, you didn't see them smoking in the streets years ago. Not ever, anything goes with them. It's a wild scene with a lot of the women. And I really see the big change. There's something gone within them. I can't really say what it is. Within every American, they're losing faith in their country, thinking that we're the worst ones in the world. It's far from the truth. Every time there was something wrong in the world, who they come to? Americans were treated like kings and queens, and during the Second World War.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, forget about it. You can't get to first base. American years ago, they're exceptional.
So it was a lot more pride in America.
Pride in American, being an American.
Right.
I mean, the flag meant a lot to you, a lot of people, service people. I mean, today they're showing a lot of respect towards ex-service. Thank you for your service, which is really a pleasant thing to hear.
Right.
You know, people see me, thank you for your service. Man, you know, I feel good, you know. I'm really, you know, proud of the fact that I was able to be a veteran.
Right.
And being a veteran, I'm sorry, more than my son or somebody who would have been more like your Uncle Ernie. He became a Marine.
Right.
And he was an embassy guard. You know?
I mean, it's not as good as the Army, but it'll do. You know what I mean?
He was an embassy guard. Did you know that?
Yeah. I forgot what a European country, wasn't he in?
Austria.
He always tells me, and I know he's gonna watch this. He always tells me about all the girls he used to pick up in Austria and in Germany and all these places. Always busting my chops about that.
He's another wild one. Him and Roseanne, they were two of a kind. Roseanne, Ernie, and the other one,
Rosalie?
No, Pat. My cousin Patsy's son. I forget his name. The three of them. If Roseanne was a boy, the three of them would have got arrested. Without doubt. Ernie and Roseanne fight like cats and dogs.
I know. I think he's told me some stories because I go to his house every January. I've been going
in the car with Grandpa and their great grandpa.
Some crazy times.
Crazy times. Ernie loved her. I think if Ernie wasn't her cousin, he would have married her. They were two of a kind. They fight at the drop of a hat, the both of them.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's changed a lot, too. Like now, my Grandpa Jack, for example, this guy would get in fights all the time, wouldn't go to jail. Now, if he were to do half of that stuff, he'd be locked up in an instant.
Of course.
It's crazy.
Different times. I mean, like I was saying, when I was a cop in Harlem, I made friends with people. People see me trying to do the right thing to the black women in the precinct, and I used to get cooperation from them.
So what do you make of this whole situation with that cop who went to jail, murder George Floyd?
He was a jerk. He shouldn't have been on the job. He had 19 complaints. Where was their internal affairs people to see and prosecute this kid? 19 complaints in 19 years. Come on, there's got to be something wrong with the guy.
Yeah.
Like they were mentioning, I was watching Waterswell last night, and that's one of the things he brought up. He says the police department should have more internal affairs officers that they could weed out the bad cops.
Right.
That
makes a lot of sense.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense. And that was one of the things that they should be talking about with the president and everybody else. Get these internal affair guys and get these bad guys out. I mean, you got a cop that's bad and he's making money, he'll try to get you on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, in fact, one cop didn't turn another cop in, he got fired where the other guy got arrested.
Mm.
One cop says, I could make you make money when I was in plainclothes. He tells this other cop, the cop says, I don't want to be bothered. Don't tell me any of this. But now he goes back and tells, because he was under investigation, he tells the IAD people that he told him. Now, this guy never told the IAD people that he's offering them to make money. He got fired.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Right.
I was in a car with a guy, and he's telling me, oh, I can make a lot of money. I said, I don't know you. I don't want to be bothered. Don't even talk to me. We were working together this one day. Don't talk to me about anything that I don't want to know about. You want to do something, you do it on your own. Don't tell me, because I don't want to have to go down and telling somebody he's telling me this and that there. I don't want to be bothered.
Right.
In fact, there was one cop that I knew, we were talking. He was under investigation. I said, listen, I don't want to know what you did because it's not my matter. You did it. Don't tell me about it because I don't want to know. In fact, we were working on a case when I was in plainclothes that there was supposed to be cops taking money. Now, I had to wear a wire.
Mm-hmm.
And the sergeant had the recorder. but he wasn't standing with me. He was in another location. When anybody talked to me, it would be recording.
Right. He would hear it. Mm.
So I'm in court. I'm waiting to hear a case, and guys that were in the school with in the CIC course coming over to me. Hey, we're all different divisions. How you doing, Al? I said, how you doing?
That's funny.
Because I don't want to joking around. How much money you making?
Right.
Somebody's joking around. I don't. 2 or 3 guys. I just point to it. I don't.
That's it. Nothing more than that.
Right. I can't do more than that. Oh, I see you, Al. Goodbye. Right away, they leave me. I don't want to be bothered. No way. I was too smart to. I was from the street that I knew a lot of shit about things to be done and whatnot.
You knew nothing good came of it.
Right. We had a case where we were being investigated by IND. So the guy said that he had $10,000 that we took. I was with a captain, a sergeant, and 2 other cops. I was the third one. My partner was in court. And we make the raid. We hit the place. And the guy says, I'll borrow. I could get this $10,000. So the captain, who was one of the best in the world, says, yeah, go get the guy. Let him come. So the guy never came. So the next morning we go into the office. The guy said, we're under investigation by IID. I said, for what? The guy said, we took $10,000. I says, if he had $10,000, he would have made an offer to us. He says, yeah, but he was scared that we'd take it all. I said, listen, if he gave it to you all, if he gave it to us all, he'd be pissed off at you. I said, but if he gave you $8,000 and he kept 2, he'd be happy because you're not taking everything.
Right.
You're leaving him with a smile on his face. He said, what do you mean by that? I said, if you don't know what I mean by that, forget about it. I don't even want to talk about it.
Wow.
And we had to go down to IAD and be investigated. I had to get a lawyer. I knew the lieutenant, and he said, I was down there, and I said, listen, I could go in there by myself. In fact, I met him during the 1964 riots, and he says, listen, I work here. You're not going in there alone. He says, you're going to wait for the lawyer.
Right.
He says, because when they're in there with you, they're going to throw shit in the game
get you
and try to get you with something else.
Right.
So you wait until the lawyer comes. And I did.
So then everything worked out?
Yeah. I mean, we never took no money. Everything was crazy, I'm telling you.
Wow.
The guy had a wire in the car. The cop had a wire in the car. I didn't know where the hell we were going. Come on. I mean, here you are, a cop, and you think you're
doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing, and you're winding up with guys that are fucking you up. The captain says, oh, you need to get on a sheet. I said, I've been trying. What can I do? I said, I don't see a crime. I ain't going to arrest anybody for nothing.
Of course, right.
So
that's the right way to police.
Right. In fact, when I was in uniform in Harlem, the drug dealer was one of the biggest ones in the area. And I was walking towards his car, and he threw a $10 bill out the window. He said, hey, officer, you dropped the money. I said, I didn't drop the money. That's yours. I said, the only thing I want from you, I want to arrest you. He says, you'll never get me to arrest me. He says, because I don't carry anything with me. He says, I said, but there's ways that I could flake you and say you had this stuff. He says, I know you. He says, you wouldn't do that to me. He says, you're not that way. I said, well, I'm going to get you one day. And that was it with the guy. That was it.
But always straight, right?
Always
as a cop,
straight, right.
You took pride in that, huh? Always.
Oh, definitely. I didn't want to get involved in any BS. Because you get involved in some stuff like that, you're the bad guy, and it hurts more people than just yourself.
Right.
Everybody's on drugs and whatnot. Bad scene.
So, Uncle Al, I just wanted to finish off with a couple of last questions here. So, if you had to go back and give yourself some piece of advice when you were 20 years old, look back, what would you tell yourself? What would that be?
Get yourself a good education and keep yourself clean. Don't get involved in any drugs or anything like that. And if a policeman stops you, yes sir, no sir, and you're snowing him under because he feels that you're respecting him and he'll respect you. And that's about it with being a policeman. All you want to do is do the right thing by people and yourself.
Right. And then, so if you, we were talking a little bit, and you said that you've lived a great life.
Right.
So looking back, what was so great about it?
Well, first of all, being married to my wife. Second of all, with the children that I have. And then being, let's see, with all my family, my great-grandchildren, my grandchildren, I enjoy their company and they do a lot for me because they respect me and I respect them. And anything I need, they're there to help me out.
Right.
My children are the greatest because anytime I need something, they're there.
They're there for you.
Louie's a big help, Donna and Debbie, all of them are tremendous to me. They treat me like everything. When I spent 8 weeks with my son and his wife, my best daughter-in-law, she is. She's my only daughter-in-law.
Yeah, so you could say that, right? You could say that without feeling bad. I know.
And treated me like a king.
When was that? When did you stay with them?
When she had the virus.
Ah, right.
I was there from Easter to 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay. So you just got back.
By Louie, yeah. And we would move around and had a good time by Louie, and come back home. I'm still having a good time. I'm with my family here. 1 week if Louie's got something going, I'll go there as long as I don't have to drive at night.
I saw a picture on Facebook not too long ago. You were by his house. It looked like.
I guess we were in Jersey.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, Uncle Al, what right now in this stage of your life, brings you the most joy?
My family.
Yeah.
My family, really. I miss a lot of things, but still, the family's there. Things I would like to do, be able to do, I can't do it because of physical disabilities.
Right.
But I got my family, and they help me out, and I do everything that I want to do with them.
Right. And we were talking. I said, you still think you're 22, huh? You want to be out there running around?
I'd love to be doing chasing people.
I know. All right, so cool. I want you to just tell a little message to your family, your kids. What do you want to tell them? Because I know that they would appreciate that.
I love you so much, and that's it. I know I get your love back in return for the love that I show to you people. You're mine, and you'll be mine till I go.
That's it. Well, Uncle Ali, thank you very much. Give me another hug and kiss.
Right.
And it was a pleasure to do this with you, and I really thank you, and I love you very much.
I love you too.
And hey, we both paratroopers, which is a beautiful thing, and I'm about to start my journey in a couple of weeks.
That's
and
great.
You already went through yours, so.
One day when we get together, if you can meet my cousin Bobby, he'd love you.
That's it. We got to make it happen.
Yeah, he's, what do you call it? We go to dinner, we go to lunch before all this shit once a month.
Really?
Yeah.
We got to make it happen again.
Yeah, we go.
When I come back for a vacation, we'll make it happen. All right, give me one more hug, because you're the best. I love you.
Love you.
And thank you very much for doing it, Uncle Al. You're the man.
I wish that your grandfather was here.
So do I. Grandpa Jack would be sitting right here doing it with us, but he's watching down, you know that.
Hey,
he's with us.
Great guy.
Thanks a lot, Uncle Al, all right?
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right.
It's an honor.
You're the man.
You've honored me a lot.
Oh, I appreciate it, Uncle Al. Thank you very much. I love you. You're great. I love doing this. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for taking so much time.